people, welcome to Bouquet Jazz Dance in the Dance Lab. And Dance is the lab where I'm doing my own exhibition on my own acts of achievement, my legacy of achievement, legacy of leadership. And you can see me in leadership here. I'm campaigning to be Vice President of Activities and Development at Oxford Brookes University. I was there from 05 to 09, and I campaigned because what happened was there was a lack of opportunities for widening participation students at the university. We never really got a say. We got ill-treated, as well as international students as an individual. I was campaigning for the activities and development because what happened was a lot of underhanded things were taking place in the SU, and I wanted to make a change. I've always been part of people empowering people at university with student empowering students, and that's why I campaigned to do this. And this is a picture of me doing that, and I did some artwork. This is artwork I created of my time, and then this is other artwork I created. Again, this is me involving myself. It's the same picture, some images of me actually doing presentations. It was important when I go to university. What happened, I created a project called Rebirth for the Cool, and one of the longest projects I've ever done. And basically, as an artist who is a multi-skilled, multi-talented artist, a dancer practitioner they call me, so I'm a project manager, I'm a facilitator and coach, I'm a performer, an entertainer. I am actually a researcher and consultant of arts projects, and I've used the arts in a wide range of ways. I went back to university to arts management, administration and business management because I wanted to create a business using the arts in all the ways that I've used it before, in a different way before, but in a business, a self-employed capacity. Yeah, and part of my work was I created a project which was Rebirth for the Cool. Basically, I'd been stereotyped as a person who had special education needs. Okay, I didn't know what the special education needs were till I went to university. Well, I did know it was called slow learning, which meant I didn't have the ability to actually go to university. So I didn't have the ability to lead myself, manage myself, and manage myself, and learn myself. That's what was identified. It was a stereotype. I broke that stereotype. I spent my life doing that. And basically, I personalised my learning. I had a dance lab. In that dance lab, it was like a school. That's how it is. You might as well call it. It was a proper lab. I had so many different self-help books, videos. I brought people in there to support me and help me and develop myself without being under scrutiny. And I brought this to university, and I brought this to other places that I worked. You need your own personal space with people who don't scrutinize you, to share, to learn. And secondly, you need resources in there. Resources, like for example, certain types of books are too hard for me to read. So I go for easy books to do a lot of self-study. So I had a lot of self-study, DIY books, tapes. I listened to hundreds of tapes. I listened to hundreds of records on self-development. People don't know. They're the things I had in the dance lab. So my dance lab is unique to me. And all my friends that dance, they all had the dance labs, the records in there, the food they like to eat, the videos that give them stimulus. And what happens is, for creativity, jazz music was the number one activity that we engaged in. We bought the records, the art. The albums of the 50s and 60s were very, very unique because what happened was the text was art, the images on the front were art, and they were all connected to the music. So there was a link. It wasn't separate. Music, art and literature was not separate. And what happened, you have to do studies around jazz because there was a miseducation in jazz. So part of my work, Rebirth for the Cool, was all around leadership, me identifying these are milestone leadership of me being involved in what I call rock culture, Rebirth for the Cool culture, being a jazzy part of the jazzy movement, rediscovering jazz for my generation, for myself. The beautiful thing about when we came into this art form, basically, what changed us was rediscovering bebop, cool and modern, because it identified to find your own personal way of playing, not other people's way of playing, and then jamming with people who also develop their own inquiry mind and finding out something, how to work together from that perspective. You understand? And that's what it was about. So what happened, I created a portfolio, recognizing I'd been stereotyped. I'd constantly been stereotyped because I had special education needs. Had a lot of labels. So labels, after 16 years old, I was called underachiever because I had waiting for 10 O-levels and I failed. I didn't know I had dyslexia. Only O-level I had was art, okay? And that wasn't deemed as anything positive in my school, which was a technical, one of the most exceptional technical schools in Manchester, which trained the next apprentices in engineering and apprentices in electronics, in metalwork. Boom. Basically, a lot of the young people went to my school. Their fathers were managers of big companies or they owned their own companies. Do you understand? Exceptional technical school as an individual. And what happened was when I got art wasn't seen as anything that's respectful. Yeah, it's ironic now. But art actually shaped me having better problem skills and creative problem skills than most people. I was good at all the other things, engineering as well. But the art added another element. I never gave up art. It was something my parents brought to me. My dad constantly did art and design. Mum constantly, she did art and design. So we had an art and design home. I came from that background, you understand? What a lot of my friends did when they left school, the art got sidetracked and they just kept the design. I did not. I still was going to galleries, museums, festivals of art, etc. And I found that what happened was it played a powerful role in my life as not only problem solving, but bringing me therapy. Because what it did, it reduced my heart rate. It learnt me to meditate. It took me into escaping world, it introduced me to new ways of thinking and learning. And it introduced me to methods and techniques that artists used. Yeah, so I was studying artists and designers, where all the friends were studying designers. Do you get me? It was really good as an individual. So anyway, cut long story short, this is me, and then what I'm doing, my own artwork. Here it is. This is a beautiful. I found this. This is a map of Britain, and look how many places there are. Right? Okay, and then one place, right? What you find, Manchester created the Industrial Revolution that changed the whole of the world, and there's Manchester there, just where I'm pointing. That small place, and this is the whole of England. And what happened was, because of hatred for Mancunians, the whole of this, all of this area from here, hid Manchester's contribution to their cities. And then, if you even go above, up to Scotland, Manchester contributed to Scotland's development. Do you understand? As well as Scottish. So you have a history that I, as an individual, I talked about activities in universities, which is student empowering students. We have the power to break prejudices, and we live with each other all the time. Students do, and we don't use that time. I brought that into university on a huge scale. I was creating, it was my own society I created called Student Empowering Students. It was not an official society. It's because I didn't make it official because I wanted to choose the people involved. It was called Student Empowering Students, Student Empowering Communities, and I chose them. I chose genuine people who had a record of empowering people. And a genuine record. I had, not only that, I had the abilities and skills. So these skills you see here, I taught myself to lecture. I taught myself to use the equipment, etc. Yeah, what you see here. I taught myself to do artwork around my activities and development. And I put that in Rebirth for the Cool. So basically, Rebirth for the Cool, my portfolio was basically giving people an insight into my portfolio career as an artist, as an activist, an ambassador of what is called UK jazz dance. But I didn't call it that. I call it rock leadership, because I didn't only do dance. Dance is the mother of all arts, and rock leadership shows you the mother of all arts. Do you understand? I was involved. I'm a poet, award-winning dance poet, actually, as an individual. I'm a percussionist. And what happened, I studied poetry myself independently, went to a lot of events, symposiums, etc. I studied. I'm Afro percussionist. I studied under leading teachers as well as poetry. I studied under just to find out what they did, how they created, and created my own style. So I created my own art of flying solo with a new jazzitude. I learned from others what were their methods and what would they do. One thing that was constant, they all created their own spaces and created their own ideas, how they developed what they wanted to do, which I already done. So when I met them, when I met poets, I already was a poet. Now, if you put it in the context of British poetry, my poetry is not there. I never said it was that. It's African diaspora poetry. It's not equated to the language of poetry that everybody knows. It's equated to the streets I came from, where I lived, Moss Side slums. We had our own language that was understood. So, for example, Manchester, we say, boy, you're a don. That means you're a big king. A doness, we mean she's a queen. Every place had its own language that was related to their communications, social, physical, intellectual, cultural. Do you understand? And I brought that into the school. So I said, how are you going to get to understand each other? because a lot of stereotypes around me, people identified me as special education needs. Special education needs written as dumb, silly, this and that. Now I'm at university. The first time at university I was described as dyslexic. As I walked in, I just done a dyslexic test and found out I was dyslexic. So my new label was dyslexic dance leader or dyslexic arts manager, because dyslexia was a huge thing that was being studied. Lucky for me in the university. But even when I walked into university, one of the things about student empowering students was this whole thing. What I recognized, dyslexic students were not empowered in Oxford Brookes University. What happened was people were too ashamed to associate themselves with dyslexia, so they